Hello, everybody at Unity, and especially hello to you, Rob and Jan. It's your friend Peter Mayer here to say congratulations on your retirement, and also to say what an honor and a joy it has been to work with you through the years. So here's a song called Everybody In, and I will teach you the chorus. It goes like this. Let everybody in, everybody in, everybody into the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody in to the circle, circle. So please join with me. Here we go. Jesus spoke, entreating them to live together in a great circle of love. When his followers asked him then who should be included, Jesus said, let everybody in, everybody in, everybody in to the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody to the circle, circle. Oligarchs, tyrants try to keep some in, everyone else outside. The revolution sweeps across the land, and the people all stand. The common folk cry, let everybody in, everybody in, everybody in to the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody in to the circle, circle. Sometimes a circle is a class or creed. Sometimes a circle is made of old men. Bill, Susan, B, Anthony says, what about me? Let me in, let everybody in, everybody in, everybody in to the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody to the circle, circle. Sometimes a circle is a privileged thing, excluding people for the color of their skin. Till the voice of Martin Luther King says, let freedom ring, let everybody in, everybody in to the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody to the circle, circle. Gay and straight, rich and poor, old and broken, open up that door. The more we are, the greater we become. After all, we all are one. Bring in the people, but don't stop there. Bring in the fish in the sea, birds in the air. Bring in the rivers wide, mountains tall. We go together, or not at all. Let everybody in, everybody in, everybody in to the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody in to the circle, circle. Everybody, everybody, everybody to the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody to the circle, circle.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Chris Crosby-Schmidt, and over the next hour or so, we're going to say farewell to and celebrate our beloved co-ministers, Rob and Jan Eller-Isaacs, and their 21-year ministry in this congregation. We'll have music and stories, just as in a Sunday morning service, but this is not a religious celebration this afternoon. We're here to lift up these two individuals who have made such a remarkable impact here. We've got help this afternoon, some of whom will be here in the chancel with me, others on video, as you just saw with the OK Factor and Peter Mayer, and others, like these Unity members who reflect on how Rob and Jan brought ministry to life within and among us.
I first came to Unity not long after 9/11, a few months, and I walked in and I sat down in the pew and I heard Rob and Jan, and it just changed the way I saw the world. Jan and Rob really played such an important role in so many milestones of my life. As I met Heather, they welcomed both of us to this church, and then when our kids were born, when our girls were born, they celebrate that with us.
One of the things that I've experienced, and I'm sure most of the congregation has at some time in their lives, is their pastoral care is extraordinaire. It is, I had so much help from Rob and Jan during Ken's very long illness, and also my cancer. I cannot thank them enough for what they've done. And I know that that is probably one of the most important parts of their being here. And not all ministers are capable of doing the kind of support and advice that they give. And I just want to thank them for that. And I'm sure every member that has ever experienced pastoral care with either one or both would certainly support that.
In 1973, the American Psychiatric Association made the brave determination that being homosexual was no longer a mental illness. And 1973 was the year I graduated from high school. As I became an adult and moved here and started my life here, I really think I padded my heart. Kind of, if you can envision kind of me placing bubble wrap around my heart, just so that I wouldn't be, hurt, trying to protect myself from the broader culture. Because even with that acknowledgement that being gay or lesbian doesn't make you mentally ill, culturally that was still so deeply embedded. You fast forward, Rob and Jan are here, I'm very active in the church, and Iowa passes a marriage amendment, and Jan and Rob get this idea of the Love Bus, and that we're gonna drive down to the UU Church in Des Moines, Iowa, and have marriage ceremonies. They rented a bus, we all piled into the bus, drove down to Des Moines, had music and singing, and lots of people brought their families with them. It was very celebratory. We had our dress-up outfit that we brought along and changed when we got into the church, and they had this wonderful wedding luncheon. Then individually, with Rob and Jan up front and the Unitarian Des Moines minister also present there, they conducted 9 wedding ceremonies. This was legal recognition, signed our marriage certificates outside in the lobby, changed back into our bus clothes and got on the bus and came back.
It was just such a wonderful experience. I remember the night that the bus came back, and we had a celebration here in the parish hall. And what a wonderful, joyous time it was.
Here are 100 people or more that were throwing rice at us, and we marched into the parish hall, and there's a band, and we had dancing and food and a wedding cake, a huge tiered wedding cake, and it was really amazing, just the warmth and the reception. And I think that allowed me, for me, that was really a transformational moment where I could unpack that bubble wrap a little bit, that I was seen as a whole and holy human being.
This time of year is we're in blossom. We're in springtime, and you can some days you can almost see the blossoming happening. That's just those special days. And yet we at Unity Church go through that a lot. Where we see these things blossom in us, and I hope that we never stop doing it.
Jan created a worship service in response to the Me Too movement that was emerging publicly, creating a space for women to name and heal their own Me Too moment, their own sexual assault. She did so in part by naming and claiming her own story. And then she created a space, a ritual that would hold women across our entire congregation by spreading this ritual over all 3 services. And I happened to be at all 3 services that week. In fact, I knew I was going with my mentee, my 9th grade mentee, to the 11 o'clock service. And so I went to the 9 o'clock service just to emotionally prepare for being there with a 14-year-old. And what Jan did was had a clear vase filled with water inside of a larger bowl, and then stones. And she invited women to come up and just silently place a stone into the vase, and we could see the water level rise. And what I think no one anticipated is that by midway through the 3rd service, the stones were gone and the water had overflowed. And that was a testament to how needed this public moment was, of both courageously claiming the stories of sexual assault, but also a public reckoning with how many women, not just in our congregation, but in our society, hold those stories with no place to share them.
when my family was fairly new to Unity, we went with Rob and Jan and others to sing carols for Unity members in nursing or assisted living facilities. It was a wonderful thing for us who had no family in Minnesota, and our young children were really warmly welcomed. And if you've ever seen Rob and Jan with little kids, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it also gave us a firsthand look at the interconnectedness and care that's a hallmark of their ministry. Another of those hallmarks has been their tireless push to widen the circle. They literally and figuratively have removed walls and opened Unity's doors. They told us, sometimes to our discomfort, that there is a whole hungry world out there, a wider community waiting for us, just beyond.
I retired on the same month and year that Ceausescu was assassinated in Romania. And the reason I mention that is that I suddenly had plenty of time. Thank God was able to correspond with our church, which was assigned by UUA, and we got Homer Road, St. Peter. As a committee, we're lucky to be able to translate with our church and help them a little bit on the side. And then, lo and behold, Rob and Jan came into the picture, and we are complete support of the program. And it was just joyous. And they started the pilgrimages. And at that time it was called the Sister Church. And I mention that because as the relationship to that church has evolved, it is a true partnership now.
Even before Rob and Jan came, we were a teaching congregation, but I think we are much more. It's much more in the front before us right now. It's become part of our mission almost to be a teaching congregation. What does that mean? It means that we have interns who bring their own gifts, their own ideas. It's been a delight for me personally to have met each one of these interns and to have some kind of a relationship over the years. And then to see how each one of them has developed and then has moved into their own pulpits, their own ministry, has been just a wonderful thing. Each one of them has brought to us their own gifts and have changed us. I mean, I think of Wendell Berry as one of my favorite writers, and he talks about how through my relationships, less and less am I who I was, and more am I who you are. So we change one another, we influence one another, and that same kind of process goes on with the interns, with the congregation, and indirectly, in a broader sense, with our congregation to the many congregations throughout the UA.
I mean, just as an educator, the pedagogy, the way that the service is crafted, the intentionality with which a message is layered from the first welcome all the way through to the final song, allows people to understand the big concept, explore it more complexly, and then walk out feeling called in some way to engage with that question beyond. So it's teaching, it's a lesson. And there are many other programs within Unity that are explicitly about teaching people the tools and the practices that will help them live their faith, live with integrity, service, and joy.
One of the things that I think is so important about during Rob and Jan's ministry here has been the practice of giving away the offering. When that idea first came up, it seemed counterintuitive to me. Why would you do that? That doesn't make sense. And yet it makes every sense. It's proved that we actually, by giving away the Sunday offering, we actually bring in more money to Unity Church than we ever did before. And we also work. We also do the work that we want to do as a congregation in the wider community.
They helped me feel like I had a role, a responsibility, really, to change the world, to at least make my part of it better. to listen to them on Sundays, sometimes it moved me to tears. It certainly made me think about what they said, sometimes long after a service was over.
They have empowered me and challenged me to see my role in the world as someone who creates brave space, centered on the basic humanity of every person. So watching them engage in the Poor People's Campaign, for example.
There are 4 evils that the Poor People's Campaign has come together to confront. And they are racism, economic disparity, militarism, and environmental degradation.
And I was privileged enough to watch Rob go through all of the months and months and months of build up to that, knowing that the culmination was probably going to be being arrested publicly.
That by moving forward with
And watching Rob and Jan literally put their bodies on the front line in this fight. It cracked things open for me, and so I still carry that image every time I walk into a protest situation. I think about watching the 2 of them be arrested and knowing that this is also holy work. I never uttered the phrase white supremacy culture before I came to this congregation. I did not talk about dominant white culture. I did not talk about race because I was trained very well that talking about race was racist and that acknowledging race was uncomfortable and that you were going to make somebody feel bad. And here, one of the most important and profound things that I learned was that not only was it right to talk about race and essential to talk about race, but that it was part of my faith to talk about race. And they modeled that through all of the years that people pushed back and said, we're really getting tired of hearing about this. And until finally people started stepping across the line and talking about it themselves. And I will say that because I kept talking about it in my workplace, and then my principal started talking about it, who started talking openly about it with my superintendent. Like, it's not just because I started talking about it, but definitely has played a role in my professional space that I learned here that was part of being human and it's part of the integrity and the service and the joy of being a member of a faith community, that you talk about race openly. And that was a revelation.
If we step up now, we can change the world. James Baldwin said, if we, and by we, I mean the relatively conscious ones who must, like lovers, inspire and sustain the consciousness of others, do not fail in our duty now, we may yet end the racial nightmare, realize our country, and change the history of the world. This is the time.
We could not name all the ways in which Rob and Jan have widened the circle of this congregation, but our partnership with the church in Omorod St. Peter is an especially significant one. So we also wanted to share this message sent yesterday from Kenga Reka Seke and the congregation of Omorod St. Peter with the subject line, "You will always be with us." Dear Unity people, we are thinking of you these days with joy and sorrow, with gratitude and nostalgia, with modest dreams and strong love. It is hard to say farewell, and it is hard to realize another era is gone. 2 wonderful decades we truly enjoyed have passed. Time passes, but the emotions we witnessed, the feelings we lived, the moments of the heart stay with us forever. We are grateful to Jan and Rob for being the leaders of our partnership, being the leaders of the pilgrimages throughout the decades. May God hold you in his/her palms, even when you walk without Unity Church. May you who stay with Unity Church have the courage and strength to look for new ways of being spiritual. Also, may you have the courage and strength to stick to the old ways too. We have experienced true love, true joy, and uplifting faith knowing you. God bless you. Kingo Reka and the congregation of Homerod St. Peter. A year ago, when Rob and Jan first attempted to retire, generous members of Unity started a retirement fund in honor of their ministry. Now, with a bonus year tacked on to their tenure, and we're calling that a bonus year, and the unanimous vote of the congregation to make them ministers emeritus and emerita, we created the Minister Emeriti Fund, knowing that their ministry will continue in new and creative directions, both with Unity Church and in the wider world. The gifts from the congregation include the Emeriti Fund, a beautiful quilt made by the Evergreen Quilters, and a stunning reredos made of stained glass and walnut by Chris Greasy and Kevin Harris. We know that Jan and Rob have built up a healthy case of wanderlust, so another of our parting gifts is the teardrop trailer of their dreams, all of these given out of a deep gratitude for how they've touched so many lives here. Around 2005, Jan asked our former director of music, Ruth Palmer, if she would start a kind of a cappella folk ensemble, like maybe Sweet Honey in the Rock. What Jan and the congregation got was something a little different. The Unity Singers, 20 of us who came from all walks of life, but were all basically deep choir nerds. We worked hard at challenging repertoire and came to perform at the National Conference of the American Choral Directors Association twice. A huge honor and accomplishment for any church choir, but especially for Ruth, Unity, and us lucky ones who got to sing in it. Rob and Jan traveled with us, beaming at us on stage like proud parents from their seats in the hall. This wasn't quite what they had in mind, but they had the grace and vision to let us literally find our voice. More important than those big stages, though, the Unity Singers taught us how music could be a ministry in its own right. It has been our great joy and humble privilege to serve this congregation and the wider community this way. A few weeks after we came back from the 2019 ACDA convention, the Unity Singers gave a concert here in the sanctuary, joined by violinist Tai-Chi Chen. And we'd like to share one piece from that night by composer Eric Essenwalds that seems especially fitting for this farewell. Centuries ago, a Chinese poet looked over the vast prairie grasses near his village, seeing how lush and deep they were and how wildfires could never burn them away. But this isn't a song about grass. He closed his poem saying, "As I see my friend along the road depart, I feel the grass is deep in sorrow as my heart."
just want to say thank you, Rob and Jan, for all the things that we haven't even talked about, and most especially we didn't mention your heroic stay of the past year. How they brought around the services online, which I go to every Sunday.
Your church community promise we shall never betray you.
Sometimes in my pajamas, as most people also do. But so many people have said where I live, I just wish I had my Sunday services. Well, we had ours, and it was a real bonus to be going to church regularly, which I had always done. You can't really say enough about it. It was wonderful.
I think Jan and Rob have made all the difference in this very difficult year. One of my strongest memories is we were taking a train back from Seattle as the pandemic really started to break and everything was shutting down. Everyone was afraid. And we sat in our little train compartment and we listened and watched that first online service.
Where we will sing from our balconies.
Jan and Rob really gave a fireside chat to tell us that we were loved and it was going to be okay. And the words that you gave us about marriage, about having kids, they have stayed with us. They've been important. I want to say thank you. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Rob.
Blessings and transformation and wonder have happened in times and places that I have so rarely expected them to happen in. And I hope that as my wish for you, Rob and Jan, is that as you make this transition to this new life, you can look back on all of the ways that you have impacted others, all of the ways that you have led both individual transformation, congregational transformation, denominational transformation, and take that in the deepest sort of way and let that help propel you and transform you as you move forward into this next phase of your lives.
On behalf of this congregation, I want to thank you for challenging us, for inspiring us to move into tomorrow. On the search team, when we were doing our work, we were always mindful that while we're selecting ministers for the present, for our present, we also need to be faithful to our heritage, and we also need to look into the future. And now, 21 years later, it is the future that, as far as we could have imagined it then. And I have no doubt that the new search team will select ministers that will carry Unity Church farther into the future. But they will build on what you have done, Rob and Jan. You have brought us to this point, and it's a place that I find always inviting. It's always open. I always come away inspired and filled with wonder after a Sunday service. I always find that I feel so much better after having been here, and I know that I'm not alone with that. So thank you for being part of my life, and I wish you the best in your retirement.
From the very beginning, you have invited us to share in this ministry, and we have been transformed. Thank you. And your fierce love for the world. Your steadfast commitment to building beloved community. Your challenge to us to be part of that work that is hard and holy, the work of generations. It has been coursed through with your vision and your commitment. We are grateful. I am grateful for your fierce love. And lastly, I just want to say thank you for the distinct honor of being able to be at your side for these last 21 years. to be able to support your ministry and to walk this journey with you. I'm deeply grateful. And I send you off with every blessing and with my deep love. Thank you for your fierce love, and blessings to you.
Rob and Jan, I am eternally grateful for everything you brought to my life and to the life of my children. And I am so grateful that you have these years ahead of you with your children and creating all of the layers of your life that have been waiting for you. Thank you for this extra year of holding us in community. Blessings to you, love to you as you step foot out into the world. Thank you for blessing it.
I've known Rob and Jan most of my life. Not having them here is going to be different, and I just am going to have to get used to the new person, or people. And I don't really like getting used to new things. It's not my favorite thing to do.
I felt like they were just really nice, and I mean, most ministers are nice, but they just, like I said, they were super welcoming, and they acted like we were normal people, and they were super nice to us, and we really enjoy hanging out with them, and yeah, I just, thanks for all the good times, you know, Rob and Jan?
I'd probably say something like, you were a very important person in my life. I'd probably see you like once a week because it's Sunday. And I'll miss you guys. I hope you have a good time wherever you go.
And it'll probably be nice to retire. I mean, you get to just
chillin'? Just chillin'?
Yeah, it'll be like a forever weekend.
I can only imagine.
In the parish hall, they give out donuts.
So here's a donut, for example.
We would always want to go eat the delicious donuts. We wouldn't always be allowed to, but when I would go and hug Rob and Jan, I would always, if I was gonna eat a donut, I would be like, guess what? And they'd be like, what? And I'd be like, I'm gonna go eat a donut. And they'd be like, what kind? And I'd be like, I'm gonna eat one with sprinkles on it, because I always wanted the sprinkles. And then they'd be like, yes, that's very exciting. I think I'd want one with sprinkles too.
We give thanks for being here together. We give thanks for being here together. Being here together. Being here together.
Rob and Jan, wherever you go on this blue boat home, please know this place that you helped build and shape and grow will always be a harbor for you. We will miss you, of course, but we are profoundly grateful to you for all you've done to make us strong and ready for our next adventure. And for your next adventure, well, we wish you so much joy. May your travels be safe and satisfying and hopefully include a few visits back home. May your days be filled with family and friends, old and new, with time for peaceful contemplation and raucous celebration, and with songs sacred, profane, and silly. May your flame continue to illuminate and reveal, to warm and inspire. And while this has not been a religious service today, I think it's appropriate to say, may it be so, and amen.